Thank you everyone for joining us this morning for our first of 4 Meet the Buyer events through the Kennewick Chamber of Commerce PTAC office. This morning we have James Glynn with me, a very strong colleague and supporter of PTAC and training all of our small business partners on how to do work with the Army Corps of Engineers based in Walla. We will go through some brief introductions, some little information about PTAC for those that might be a little newer to our program. And then we will continue on with our presentation and questions and answers and do everything we can to help you understand how to do business with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. A little information about Washington PTAC and what we do. Really, our main goal is to maximize the number of very capable Washington state companies in their participation in the government marketplace. And some people kind of wonder when they first call me if there's a cost for our services. Absolutely not. We provide our one-on-one counseling and other services at no cost to the businesses. Your tax dollars help pay for this program. It is funded by the Department of Defense and the Office of Small Business Programs, as well as our host site. My host site is the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce in Kennewick, Washington. We provide services, not just the one-on-one counseling, but we also have workshops and webinars like the one that you're attending today. We assist businesses in locating bids, getting registered on vendor sites, interpreting solicitations and what they might mean, whether or not it might be a good match for that business to take a look at as a go or a no-go with regard to government contracting. We can assist with certifications, small business certifications through the SBA or the Office of Minority and Women's Business Enterprises. We can help you learn how to market to the government, particularly through design and implementation of your capability statements. For those that are not familiar with that, feel free to reach out to me and I can let you know what that is and help you. We do have some post-award assistance depending on what is happening. If you still need a little guidance on what your responsibilities are and policies and procedures that are in place once you sign that contract. And we do have a service that this one particular service called our bid match service. It is a fee for service. It's something you can try out to see if you'd like the program. I can go into more detail on that with those of you that are not familiar with it. But it is wonderful. We do partner with over 1,600 entities, government entities throughout the state of Washington and beyond. And they're kind enough to send their solicitations through our website. And if you put a business profile into our website through the bid match service, if those solicitations are a match, if you will, for your NAICS codes or your keywords regarding what your business has to offer, those solicitations will go direct to you through your email, which kind of helps people with, fine-tuning their search and finding solicitations and opportunities out there with the government they may not have known about or known where to look for. So if you're interested in our bid match service, just feel free to contact me and I can give you more information and help you decide whether that's a good idea. You can try that out for a month, and if you like it, just let us know. It's only $165 per year. Excellent EOI from what I hear from my clients. We have a number of PTAC offices throughout the state of Washington, as well as the rest of the nation. And this is kind of just a brief overview of who's who and where. Mine is number 8 in Region 8. I cover Central and Southeast Washington, so everything from Yakima County down to Klickitat and over to Walla and into Columbia County, and then up north beyond Franklin County up into Grant County. If you think your business is located in an area that you might want to register with me, I'm happy to do that. And if you're outside my region, that's okay. You can contact anyone that's on this list, or you can contact me directly and I'll get you connected with the right person that's closest to you to provide that one-on-one service to help you out. Some upcoming PTAC events in the state of Washington. I have on May 19th, my monthly PTAC and SBDC Small Business Roundtable. It will be a virtual event via Zoom with a partner of mine with the SBDC out of the Walla office. And my next Meet the Buyer event, doing business with local transit systems, will take place July 14th virtual via Zoom, and that will include transit specialists and procurement specialists in the Tri-Cities as well as Walla Walla. That might be one that would be of interest to some of you that have some specific skills and attributes that you think might be a match for those, particularly with the infrastructure monies coming in. There may be some opportunities that were not there a couple of years ago. So I hope you're able to join us. You can always go to our PTAC YouTube site. The link will be provided to you after this event. We record many of our webinars and trainings and workshops, and we upload those into the Washington PTAC YouTube. So you're more than welcome to go to that, as well as our PTAC the calendar. I say that too often every day. And take a look at upcoming events, not just here locally, but statewide. And if you'd like to join in on any of those, the majority of those are virtual. We're continuing to do that because we found that we can reach so many more people this way. Feel free to sign up for any of those. If you have any challenges signing up, just reach out to me and I'll help get that taken care of for you as well. Our guest presenter today, James Glynn. He is with the Office of Business Programs in the Walla Walla District. He is the deputy of the Office of Small Business Programs and has been since 2016 for the Army Corps of Engineers in Walla Walla. James is responsible for the leadership, the direction, and supervision of the district's small business program. And his duties include provision of strategic direction, the small business plan of action, acquisition planning, implementation, and administration of the full spectrum of socioeconomic programs and small business objectives for the Corps of Engineers in Walla Walla. I know I greatly appreciate working with Mr. Glynn. He's been such a supporter and a guide and kind of a mentor to me since I started this position a few years back. I always appreciate it when he has the time that he can do a presentation for us so we can get that information to all of my clients in an expeditious manner and keep you up to date, not just what's happening right now, but what's coming up in the next few years with the Corps of Engineers that you may want to follow up with Mr. Glynn. Of course, I want you to have a capability statement ready when you do that. And that's something I can help you to do too in preparation for meeting with James. So please join me today in welcoming James Glynn.
Thank you so much, Jody. A little nod up and down, make sure you can hear me.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, very good. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like I was just buckled in for a pre-flight briefing there from Jody, our flight attendant. Have you got any experience doing that stuff before, Jody?
No, at one point I wanted to work for the airlines, but I didn't go that direction. I went to college and did some other stuff. Is it one of those voices?
Anyway, I just wanted, yeah, one of those voices, kind of like going through, making sure that your seatbelts are securely fastened.
Welcome aboard,
well, good morning again. Thank you. As you can tell, I do like to have fun and spice things up a little bit too. So we've got total about 17 participants online right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a kind of an overview about what the Walla Walla District does. Take about 10 minutes to probably walk through that, and then start getting into just kind of a touching base on a couple of samples of opportunity that are coming up at the individual hydro plant facilities throughout our district. And then we'll talk a little bit as well about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the allocations that are coming to the Walla Walla District, and kind of the timelines about how those will be folded out. I do want to reserve an ample time for questions and answers for any topic within the small business community that you would like to address. I challenge you to try and ask a question within that scope. It always keeps me sharp. So please do so, and please think about questions as I do the presentation here for the next 10 or 15. So with that, Jody, there you go. So what is the Walla Walla District? We take a look at the mission, we construct, operate. The snapshot here is really, it's hydropower. It's a logistics transportation system with operating the locks on through the dams, working with water resources, including flood risk management programs all throughout the region. And of course, the snake or the fish and the aquatic species type of programs that are out there, and how these different facilities are impacted or impacting that environment. We are a civil works district, which means that we are not doing our traditional large scale, what we call vertical construction. Those would be provided through what we call the full service districts. And within our area, Seattle district is what they call full service district. So again, we talked about flood, hydropower, navigation, and then the last bullet on there is really recreation. It's amazing about how much recreation we have that we are providing through our parks and reservoir systems throughout the region. Workforce-wise, we have about 900 employees. Of that, only 2 military officers, only two folks that are in uniform, the commander and the deputy commander. Of course, I work in a building full of engineers. So if you're an engineer, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, you probably even know more what I'm talking about. And then we have, of course, a whole bunch of civil service counterparts, such as myself. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I mentioned about the different facilities that we have. There's a small graphic right there as far as the map. That's our overlay. So the Walla district covers about 107,000 square miles following the Snake Basin from the Columbia River, basically from Umatilla right there at McNary, all the way up the Snake River Basin to Jackson, Wyoming. And if you take a look at the outline there, and I'll get a better picture here on the next one, but we do not have a political boundary per se, but it's a drainage type of a system. So wherever that water drains into the Idaho Snake River system, that's what we cover. So when you're trying to figure that out, it looks like weird lines and things like that. The only exception to that is for the state of Idaho, we do have a regulatory responsibility for all the permitting and reviews and so forth, the projects that come through that are under the Corps of Engineers authority. Next slide. There you go. There's a little bit larger picture of that. Kind of get the idea. So you see there along Burns, Oregon, there to on the left-hand side, that would be the boundary for the Portland district. So essentially everything along that peak flows west, whereas everything to the east flows down into the Snake River system. I did mention recreation. We get about 8 million visitors a year to our facilities. And of course, that was related to hundreds of jobs that are out there as well. Here's a little note too that I found out when I first joined the Corps just 6 years ago now, is that the Corps and the Park Service are kind of like, competitors, if you will, as far as the number of visitors that they have coming to the parks. So I did not realize that the Corps of Engineers had that big of a footprint or that big of an impact for tourism or recreation. But they do. So apparently the numbers go back and forth over the years about who has the most participation out there. So next slide. All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about the individual project sites, and I'm going to give you a snapshot of those. What I do though is I do have a list of opportunities. Jody has copies of those, but you'll see the link to my website. And I just posted the update this morning, so it's fresh. It has all the different opportunities that I'm forecasting, and including these snapshots here that I'll be talking about. Next slide. So starting upriver at Dvorak, we have life safety alarm system upgrades. And I chose this one just as a snapshot because we're going to have a number or one of these projects for each of our hydropower facilities. We're going to be starting off with one of them on the river system and kind of working through the scenario of that project and trying to fine tune it and use it as a model or a template, if you will, to replicate on the other facilities one project at a time. Now, of course, each of these facilities are different. They were all constructed in different years. And so it's a matter of trying to just get the system right. And then once we get the system right, then we can adapt it to each of the facilities. These facilities are ranging from 50, 60 years old Make sure I got my math right. Actually, a little bit older than that. I think McNary just older than that. So you can imagine the different standards and not just signage and alarms, but also, you know, egress points as well. So that's what that study will be taking on. And so this is the life safety upgrades will be one for each of our projects that are out there. While we're on Dvorak, I'll tell you that there are some projects coming out for the fishery out there for some upgrades on that. So take a look at that list, the Excel spreadsheet list, which provides a lot of detail about what I'm seeing in the future coming up. Next slide. Lower Granite. The first project that you see there, the levee system drainage lines repairs up there at Lindsay Creek and the 380. This is a point that I want to talk about. Is this will be the seed project for our design bid build MATOC, and that is a multiple award task order contract. So I forgot to kind of draw a line in the sand or a challenge, but if I use an acronym out there, hopefully Jody's keeping track, because we have kind of a running score about if she can catch me on doing things like that. Anyway, so the design bid build multiple award task order contract will be coming out here advertisement wise. You've probably already seen some market research on that. The solicitation should be issued here probably within the next 30 to 60 days. And then we're also looking to get award on that contract no later than, I think, the end of the calendar quarter. No later than, I think, January at the latest. So this tool, we're looking to go small business set aside, and we're anticipating having about 5 contract holders on that to cover our region, cover our district. So you take a look at the map again that you had, and that's take a look at the geography that you need to be able to facilitate through that. Now, I'll tell you that predominantly the work is with the Walla district, but we've opened it up for the other districts within the Northwestern Division. And it sounds like we might have a hot mic there, so if somebody could check that. So the other districts that would be included in it potentially would be the Seattle district, Portland, Omaha, and Kansas City districts. So again, this is targeted for civil works type work, or type projects rather, but predominantly the work will come through coming out of Walla district. The reason I'm spending a lot of time on this is because with the flood of infrastructure funding that's coming through, this is going to be our primary contract vehicle to get what I call the smaller projects, so say that roughly between $500 to $5 million construction value. This will be our primary tool for placing those requirements. So we'll still have some standalone one-off type contracts, but this will be our go-to instrument for that. So the reason I'm hammering that so much, I've been promoting this particular instrument for about 2 years now, is if you miss your opportunity to get on here as a prime contractor, you know, the amount of projects that we have coming through our district on a one-on-one independent type opportunity are going to be very limited. So please, please, please take a look at that. Again, it's a combination of a design build and then also design bid build multiple award task order contract. And again, so this project here, this Lindsay Creek, will be the seed project for that. Going off, the JFS is the juvenile fish access ramp and bench projects, the upstream floating guide walls improvements. We're talking about there on the navigation side. You can see we have some some higher end technology-wise for the turbine sleeves. Navigation switchgear replacement, supply items here. So if you're on the supply side of they're providing these types of things, there's a lot of electrical going on. So from the suppliers, also well from an electrical contractor perspective, winding up with that last one for the transformer gasket replacement there for that. So you kind of get an idea that we got a lot of these things going on. These are aging facilities. And so we're doing a lot of either rebuilding the units that are out there or replacing them with modern technology. Next slide. Again, you see life safety systems upgrade there. More electrical with the DC, the direct current. You almost got me there, Jody. Low voltage again. Each of these facilities will have a number of different electrical projects that will be going on. So if you are an electrical supplier or a electrical contractor, the opportunities are very good for you right now. Next slide. Lower Monumental. You see again, we've got two items there for electrical upgrades. And then we also have the powerhouse bridge crane project there as well. A note here is Walla District awarded a contract this past year for our whole division, in other words, the Northwestern division, the districts I described earlier, for a crane MATOC. And so I think there's 5 contract holders for that. They're already prime contractors, but they'll be looking for subcontracting partners to work with them on these things. And each of these large firms has subcontracting goals, which goes down into small business and the other socioeconomic categories as well. So if you're looking for an opportunity to get out and start working on one of our hydropower plant facilities, coming in as a subcontractor is a great way to get into it. That way you're not overwhelmed with all the other G&A or the overhead requirements and reporting and so forth that you would as a prime contractor. Next slide. Ice Harbor. Again, you see here, you got life safety again. The third item down is generator metering additions. And then here's a smaller project right there, that Charbonneau Village septic project. We just awarded, let's go to the next slide. At McNary. We just awarded that last line item there on the city of Umatilla. In fact, there's a press release went out today. But there's also another project that's tied to that that'll be coming out hopefully within the next year or two, a smaller utility project. So back to the top here, I mentioned about fish and aquatic species and things. So we have now this lamprey passage improvements. Let me go and pause there for a moment. McNary is the one that's going through the large upgrade of turbines right now. So this is the primary piece of what's driving for the power generation. And so, as I mentioned, all the other what I call the supporting equipment items are being upgraded to facilitate that as well. So there's an enormous amount of work that's going on in McNary, and that'll still continue over the next 10 plus years. You see some more. The PLC is the programmable logic controllers, upgrades, more drainage on watering systems, pumps. You see that Navlock wall armor. So if you're a civil contractor working with spraying or blasting that stuff on, you got some more spillway gate rehabilitation that could be in the form of fabrication. So if you're a general contractor and you don't have fabrication capabilities, the opportunity might come out that you would need to team with a fabricator who does not want to do the install. So those are opportunities that you'll see as well. And then again, more crane work going on out there is at the Navlock. Next slide. This is one that's coming up here. I just got an update on this one yesterday here. This is right in our backyard here in Walla Walla. This is the diversion dam fish ladder. And so we're looking for that to come out to be awarded in our fiscal year 2023. So you'll start seeing some market research coming up for that. Matter of fact, I think there was an internal site or a kickoff meeting today that's going on right now as we speak. But this is the fish ladder. If you're familiar with the Mill Creek systems or facilities there, this will be a brand new fish ladder with trying to improve the flow or the accessibility up above the diversion dam. So that diversion dam is the one it's for flood control, and that's the one where it diverts off into a channel out into the reservoir, the holding lake, I would call it. So next. And then up for Lucky Peak, this one is still in the development stage. I know it's outside of Washington, but it's still a general construction. This is more probably about the largest vertical construction we would get into. And so this is still something that's trying to be figured out, what kind of construction they want to do, what the footprint's going to be. So keep your eye out on that if you're interested in Lucky Peak. And of course, that's just upstream out of Boise. And there we go. So that's that design, bid, build, may talk that I was talking about earlier. I cannot kick the podium enough on this one. This is really a project that you guys need to keep an eye on if you are interested in being a general contractor for us throughout our region. And again, that'll be coming up here solicitation wise here in the next month or two. And it'll be a two-step, or what we call a two-phase. So the phase one will be on qualifications, and then phase two, once it's scaled down, if you make it past the qualifications, then it'll go into pricing and providing a proposal for that seed project I talked about with Lindsay Creek. Jody, I'm going to pause right there because I'm making a transition, getting ready to go into the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. If there's any questions for the projects that I've described up to this point.
I want to open up for people to ask, but I want to ask one quick question. You mentioned throughout this so far in the presentation that if they're interested in subcontracting versus being a prime, is there a specific place that they could go to find out who the current prime or potential prime might be on any of these major projects, so they could start looking at doing their homework on that prime and how to perhaps contact them to talk about being a sub? Any suggestions?
Right. Yep, all good points. I don't know if you saw them on my puppy girl joined me here, so hopefully you don't get a lot of disturbance from her. So
no, we're fine.
Okay, very good. I got to close the door now because so she budged in here. Couple points there on the front end as the projects are being solicited in the under SAM.gov. When the solicitation is posted, there's an opportunity for interested parties to post and identify who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a source where subcontractor suppliers can go in there and see who is posted, but it's also a venue where you can post as a supplier subcontractor yourself. And so if there's a project of interest coming up, you know, that's an area for you to market yourself out there for anybody that's looking at that project or that requirement. The SBA has something now as we're moving a little further down the road now is say call it in the solicitation has been issued, but we're in a pre-award type of phase. This is where maybe the prime contractors are looking for teaming partners or subcontractors. They have something that's called the subnet. And Jody, you can talk more about that. Maybe opportunities that you brief on or you have training as well. But subnet is something that's put on by the Small Business Administration. It's a kind of a meeting place where primes can come out and says, hey, we have this project we're going either in a pre-award or potentially even in a post-award, where they're trying to find suppliers or subcontractors and trying to match up there too. So
yeah, thanks for
you can
mentioning that.
always take
I
a
do
look
have that. Yeah. I try to share that with folks that are looking at working with the Corps, because I know you'd mentioned a couple of times that is an additional site to go to track what's coming up in addition to SAM and putting themselves in as an interested party. So I have that information. If anyone's interested and wants a little further deep dive into that, just let me know.
Okay. I saw a text pop up that says, I think it was, does the Corps self-perform right away? Is that it was?
Yeah, it says
sure what the context.
Army Corps self-perform right-of-way and utility relocations.
I would say it depends. If you're out at, let's just take McNary. If you're on McNary property per se, you know, we have crews out there, operations crews, and so, you know, they may make decision to perform those services in-house based upon the bandwidth that they have and resources availability, and then also, what are the time requirements. But there's, of course, the possibility that those could be contracted out. So it truly is a depends type question, and I hope I got that for you, Kathy's. I mentioned we have the regulatory responsibility for the state of Idaho, and that's out of our Boise office down there. But we also have a real estate office that coordinates a number of these types of topics that you're talking about. So if you have a specific one, if you want to reach out to me offline, I'd be happy to hear what you have to say and maybe point you in the right direction.
Any other questions you want to put in the chat box? Anyone, feel free to do so, and we can send those over to James and get an answer for you.
Okay, and again, my contact information is all will be on the very end of the slide here too, so of the slide deck. Let's go on to the next slide. This is a transition. We're talking about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This has a different couple of other titles, but this is what we know it as. The broad strokes overview is we're getting about $55 million through the act. And the two projects that we're having that are coming through for this year is right there at McNary, with a number of projects there. And then at Dvorak, I mentioned something earlier about the fish hatchery up there and electrical upgrades. And so those are two of the projects that are being funded, and we're hoping to get some funding going through. I'm hoping this year. I know that Gudgeon Gates is being done this year. And then again down for the fish hatchery as well. We're hoping that will be going through as well. I'll provide, or if you go back to my my Microsoft Excel workbook that's posted on my website, you'll see individual project details that goes into more information here about each of these individual projects. This one right here is just very much of a broad overview. When I say $55 million, that's in total allocations. So there's some of those funds will go into in-house efforts. Maybe it goes into architectural and design contracts as well. So it's not necessarily 55 million coming down into the form of contracts available to the public sector or the small business community. So I did see a question pop up. Let's see if I can read that, what it is. Environmental asbestos has. So I'm glad you brought that up. We do have a contract. It's an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, so IDIQ contract for that. It's mostly about responding to something that's discovered. And so the district, the Walla district does not tackle on those mega projects. So if you have a very large project that you're looking at or tracking, then you want to be talking with our folks over at the Seattle district. They have the larger footprint, or what I call more towards the mega type projects. Let me look at the question here again. Will this work be provided likely as a subcontractor to a contractor or a MATOC under independent contract? So yeah, we do have that IDIQ. It's a single award task order contract, so that's what they call the SATOC. And again, it's mostly about responding to something that we scratched, dug into, identified when we were doing another project. And I hope that answers that question there. Okay, so back to the infrastructure. We got a lot of sediment. You can go to the next slide there if you like. There you go. About what, 10.2 million for sediment removal. That's a lot of the, we're talking about dredging to maintain a particular channel depth. So that's throughout the lower Snake River all the way up into Lewiston. Got another $6 million as far as environmental infrastructure and development there for wastewaters. This is actually in the rural areas over in Idaho. It also includes Montana. Each of the states has its own different programs. So if you stretch off into those areas outside of Washington State, probably take a look at those. Those are the smaller communities, helping them with their wastewater programs. And of course, the projects are going to be typically smaller, but they're large projects for the small rural communities. And then I also mentioned more about the dredging and surveys down below at 6.1. Next slide. So I don't want to have to go through and basically read each of these, but you kind of get the idea here about the different projects that are going through. Somebody had a question about real estate here, a second bullet there for boundary adjustments at Lucky Peak. And then again, more about, flood protection or flood protection and working through these things. Something I learned several years ago was there's a number of these levee systems that are out there. They've been out there for 100 plus years, and these were things that were built up by farmers, ranchers, as they were going through their business, and they built them at the time with what they had, just to make sure that they're protecting their livestock and their crops. So what the Corps does is we don't necessarily own them, but we assist with helping those communities with the structure that they have in place, and to be able to identify and predict weaknesses, and help those communities get good flood risk management solutions in place out there. So next slide. So I mentioned this, we're talking about FY22, fiscal year 22, the Lower Snake River Channel, the McNary cranes that are going under that crane MATOC. And then again, more navigation, lock, and electrical systems there. So I just was taking a snapshot of some of the picture or some of the requirements at the individual hydro facilities. But this is as far as the funding that's coming through this year through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that we're looking to put out there on contract. And you probably have already seen some of that information coming through with market research requests for information. Next slide. Here's that link. This is my website there. So if you get in there, and then there's a drop down on the left-hand side that you can open up for contracting opportunities. I would encourage you to take a look at the website. There's a whole bunch of other useful pieces of information, and on the right-hand side, a list of links. I mentioned the Small Business Administration. There's a drop-down link there, and that'll get you down to that subnet. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other pieces in there that'll help steer you in the direction as far as topic-wise. Jody, I think I'm getting into the bottom of this slide deck. Yeah, the last one there is a new piece right there as far as what the Corps of Engineers opened up here this past year is that new Contractor Database. This will be a national type database. This is separate from SAM.gov or the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine. So if you want to do work in particular with the Corps of Engineers, this is a good place to plug your name into, kind of like the Yellow Pages, specific to that target project owner. Next, here's the points of contacts. Okay, and Jody, I just realized that I don't have my name on here.
I'll take care of that. Yeah, I'll be sending a PDF of the entire slide deck, and anything that I haven't seen that I've made notes and additional, I'll make sure that that's all added to the slide deck and the PDF version for all of you. You'll have all of the links to the sites that James mentions, and a few other things that I've been making note of, and I will provide some additional information, particularly the subnet, maybe some information on MATOC, if I can kind of get a little clarification for those of you that may not be familiar with it. So I will be following up with everything. And of course, this is recorded. And if you need to go back and look at anything for clarification, it'll be on our YouTube site before too long, probably early next week. Thank you, James. Just so much good information. And I know one question that comes to mind, and then we'll open it up for questions with from our attendees. But this infrastructure plan, there's a lot of it's vague, to those that are out here kind of watching this stuff on the news and things. A lot of people don't understand the time frame of this money flowing in and actually being put to use under contractual agreements. Do you have a kind of a basic idea of how that works? Do you get a notice once a month or quarterly maybe that tells you here now this is accessible, this is accessible? How does that work from the Corps' perspective?
Right. So as you can imagine, if you're, sitting here cooking along, doing your business as usual with your normal mission, and then all of a sudden you get 55 million, that hits your account, you're gonna like, oh my gosh, how are we going to execute all this work?
Yeah.
And so the good thing about it is it's not fiscally controlled per se. So I'll just call it a loose term, saying it's multi-year money. So the funding that we would receive this year, we can now actually step back, and rather have to be just reactive. We can start planning about which projects we're going to do, which ones are the priorities for it, and then how we're going to execute this. Because there's a lot of planning, a lot of permitting on the front end for requirements that need to go in play. So this 55 million, and there will likely be more funds or allocations coming through. So this will be continuing to be put under contract or executed over the next 2, 3, maybe even further out fiscal years. A note here about funding for us, in particular for the hydropower facilities. We are producing power on behalf of Bonneville Power Administration. And so while we own the facilities, we do not own the commodity, I guess that you would put it, the utility, the electricity that's going out. So that belongs to Bonneville Power. So they have a piece of the pie, if you will, as far as funding. And each project, each site location has a different share. But I'll just keep it simple and say that a project comes through. I don't know, we saw when we had a transportation or some kind of a gate. Now let's just say that the cost share is 50-50, where through normal appropriations, 50% funded, maybe, and now Bonneville Power has to pay the other 50%. So it's not as clean slate as here's $10 million, go do this. It's $10 million. Now we have to take a look and see, okay, who has a responsibility of the cost share wise. And so those projects would have to be presented to Bonneville Power, where our teams meet regularly, and they prioritize projects and identify which projects that Bonneville Power wants to do as far as their priorities, and what their funding stream is there as well to support these requirements. So it's not like just, here's 10 million, go do it. Okay, it's like 10 million. Okay, now which project we're going to do, and what's the cost share going into that. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody on that one.
Well, I think that helps a little bit, because there is a lot to it. There are a lot of players in the game, a lot of different entities that are responsible for different portions of it. So really any clarification is helpful. We do have another question. Who manages the joint project with BPA?
That's part of our programming and planning side of the house within the district. Of course, then they have a partner that they work with down in Portland at the Bonneville Power. It's also, some of those projects are also vetted through our Northwestern Division offices. And that's literally right across the street from the Bonneville Power Administration offices there at the, what I call the Lloyd Center area there in Portland. So it all depends on, the scope of the project. But if it's specific to Walla District, and it falls out of our planning and programs branch that basically works and massages each of these projects and with priorities and so forth.
Thank you. I haven't seen another question pop up yet. Would anyone like to unmute and ask a question? And so there was someone that was about to ask just as I offered to open it up. Would you like to ask a question directly of James? You can unmute if you'd like.
James.
So Jody, something I've been asking questions. Or go ahead.
Oh, sorry. First, I really appreciate you doing this presentation today. It's been very informative. My question is, so you said on your website you have the Excel, which is a kind of a breakdown of all the projects.
Right.
When you say it's a breakdown, is it just a synopsis of the projects, or does it actually go into more of what the full needs of the projects are going to be, more kind of like an RFP or RFI level?
No, this is more about trying to fill your pipeline for your bid and proposal. You've seen where other, some agencies will get out there and say, okay, hey, in this fiscal year 22, this is the list of projects we have coming out. They might be a dozen projects, 20 projects, and they might just have just a project name, and that'll be it. And so what I've done here is actually gone out and provided much more detail for projects, identifying, when they're coming out, what makes, code, and so forth they are. What I'll do is just kind of, if you can see my cursor, we have going across the top, by our project number that identifies, that helps me identify exactly which project it is that you're talking about. And then of course, by the fiscal year and what that projected makes code is. Again, that's the North American Industry Classification System. And you can see these are already set up that you can sort through these. So if you want to sort from smallest to largest, whatever you want to go through there. And then we have by the item description. So this would be the project description that we're calling it. But of course, those descriptions vary. And that's why I placed in that project number so I can key in on that. And then we have our project location codes. There's also a cross-reference here for, I think it's on the bottom of the sheet or in the disclosures. Yeah, right down here in the disclosures. And then we get into the solicitation number. So this is information that it's important to say this is not the official opportunity announcement as far as solicitation. Those will be all coming out on sam.gov. But this is a tool here for you to start looking in the future as far as projects and what I call help start filling your bid and proposal pipeline. So again, locations where it's at, the solicitation number if I have it, TBD of course is to be determined. And then we get into the contract types, what I'm anticipating it coming out for. So FFP, of course, is fixed price or firm fixed price. Again, there's a crosswalk there as far as the codes. And then you get into the set-asides, TBDs, OTSB is other than small business. A note here is that the set-asides are determined largely based upon our market research, our sources sought information. So this is a good opportunity to plug on for that. If you see something come out from us and it says it's a request for information or a sources sought from market research, that's our contracting community coming out and says, hey industry, this is what we're coming out with. Tell me if you're capable of doing this. And that information that comes back is what I consider one of the primary processes to decide whether that opportunity to be set aside as small business or into one of the other socioeconomic categories. So this is your opportunity as a small business to potentially steer the opportunity into a set aside or maybe down to one of the other set aside categories. The other plug that I'll say on this is if they ask for 10, ask you to respond to 10 items, make sure that you're responding to all 10. If your firm only has capability or capacity to respond or address 7 of the items, that's fine. But tell how you're going to do the other 3. With a supplier or subcontractor that can fill in the gaps. So in other words, answer all 10 bullets or what are the questions that they're asking. If you don't have the capability in-house, demonstrate who your team member is and identifying who they would be. The more definitive that relationship is, like with a binding arrangement, a signed teaming agreement, the better off that it is to show that you're serious about executing or participating in those opportunities. So continuing on across, we have the magnitude of construction. These are defined by the Federal Acquisition Regulations supplements. And so you get down to some larger ones. You got 1 to 5 million, maybe the project is 1.2. But per the regulation, I can only tell you that between 1 and 5. Our hands are tight on that. And then of course the solicitation date and the forecasted award dates. These are again forecasts. And then the last column talks about scopes. So this is just a brief paragraph or a couple lines about what the project is. So if you take a look at the project description, or rather the title of the project, you may not know what it entails. But if you go on over here, you kind of get a better idea what's happening in there. And if you have questions about something and something that piques your interest, feel free to reach out, and I can hopefully give you some more information on those. I also do include some items here. I just scrolled here. We see some text that's in red. That's when I see that there's a sources sought notice that goes out. That's part of that market research project or process. It'll help you get into a bit more definitive about what that project is happening, what the timelines are.
And then, of course, take time to go back and relook at these. I think when you are able to look them up, especially if they are in SAM, you can click on follow, and then any updates to those solicitations will continue to come your way, so you can keep track of how they're progressing through those steps. Is that correct, James?
That's correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to open up my website here and share that on the screen. There was a question about subnet.
Yeah, they're asking if the subnet through the SBA and SAM is the location to create a profile in subnet, or is that through SAM for any kind of subcontracting opportunities? I think you said that was through SAM itself, is what I think.
For subnet, all right, can you see the web page that I have up?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so subnet is going to be under, this is a drop down for SBA. Hopefully you can see that. There's a drop down right here. Okay. And that subnet will take you directly to the SBA's website. Okay. And I think I don't know if there's any login information that you need to have on that or not. So I can just go in there and register, but it would be helpful if you already registered in sam.gov to go in from there. So I mentioned a whole bunch of other different sites in here that you might be of interest. Site standards, dynamic small business search. Was there another question here? So I think I should probably talk a little bit more about this. Jody, you mentioned, or I know I mentioned earlier about the Dsbs. Dynamic small business search. This is a critical piece for small businesses to be out there. We were talking about market research. So this is essentially an extension of your sam.gov registration, applicable to small businesses. And this is a tool that's largely used for doing market research. And you can put whatever parameters in here and pick them up by cage code or by company information number. And for those folks that may not be aware of it, the DUNS number is closed out. That's gone away now. That's the Dun & Bradstreet assigned numbers. And so the SBA has adopted their own numbering convention, and it falls under this unique entity identifier. That's UEI is what it's called. So you'll start seeing that. Just like doing the yellow pages I mentioned here, I know yellow pages is still out there or not, but you go in here and you have an opportunity to do some free text, identifying what your narrative is or capabilities, so with a bunch of keywords, also with specific type of equipment that you might have on hand or have access to, identifies bonding limitations, areas, states that you want to work in, picks up off of your NAICS codes that you've listed under your sam.gov. This is a great tool for marketing yourself, for when the government folks are going out and doing their own market research. This is one of the pieces that they're looking at to see if what firms or how many number of firms within that particular states or counties, whatever that they are, that can perform that work.
And it is very important
So
that you do get some good keywords in there and a brief synopsis of your capabilities in there, because a little too often we look up companies in the dynamic small business search and they have failed to put that information in when they update, either when they register or update their SAM profile. And it's imperative that you do, as the business owner or the representative for your company, take time to make sure that your dynamic small business search profile is fully filled out correctly, that you have all of the NAICS codes that you want people to know you, that you match with those, the keywords, capabilities. Because I have been told by a number of procurement specialists at the government level that they go to Dsbs to find how many businesses within their region provide services under specific NAICS codes, and then there's nothing in the narrative about their capabilities. And unfortunately, many of those professionals are so busy that if they don't see what they need to in that at a glance spot that SBA set up for you, then you very well could be off their list, and they will not contact you or send you the solicitation information because they can't tell what you do. If you're not sure how to update that, or when you're registering for SAM, or I think most applicable is those of you that it's time to update your SAM profile and it looks completely different than it did a year ago, reach out to me. I can help walk you through and make sure that's done in the best manner possible. We can double check the DSBS, because not only is it different with the UEI and the DUNS number is gone, there have also been some issues in transition of information within their systems. So sometimes your address is not correct, it doesn't match, and all of a sudden your profile is not reactivated. So believe me, PTAC is on top of this nationwide. We're highly trained to help people get through this, and at the same time, make sure that profile in the dynamic small business search is also updated when you update your SAM profile. So if you're not sure, reach out to me. I do that every day, help people survive that part of this whole process. What other questions do we have? Well, we've got James here, and you can ask him directly. Something pertinent to your business. What would you like to ask? Anyone, feel free to unmute. I'm going to ask real quick, Aaron, with Quantum, do you do bid build, design bid build? Do you have any questions on some of those MATOC and some of the things coming up that you want James to clarify for you? And if you are, you're on mute. I thought I'd check with her. James, you were just about to say something. Sorry about that.
Well, I think you took an opportunity out of my playbook. There's a couple of years back, I was doing an in-person event, and that's pretty much where I basically just gave like a 5-minute overview, and I just went around the room and started asking questions, and what did you do, and tell me what you do, and give me your elevator speech and things like that. So that's kind of a piece out of my playbook for calling somebody out. That's great. How about the different small business programs that are out there as far as similarly situated, joint ventures, new things with registration as far as women owned? Any questions about that at all? I'd love to address those.
If not, I can call them out. We may just, I think we've got some time. Maybe we'll just go through each one, like James mentioned. Let's have you unmute, introduce yourself, tell us a little about your business, and if you have a question for him. Taylor at Paradigm Safety.
Yeah, hi, thanks for setting this up today. I do have a question before I get into what we do. I can kind of share both at the same time. So we're a consultant company that provides safety consulting and training, and for the construction industry, for federal sectors, both for Department of Defense and for Department of Energy. And I'm just curious what the best opportunity route we should go down for partnering with either prime contractors or subcontractors and try to build that relationship and look for opportunities within it.
So this is where you're providing the service to the contractors themselves. A couple different ways to do that. I would probably point you more to the professional organizations that are out there. The associations. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is the Association of General Contractors. Other professional associations like that, where you can make contacts, whether they're also at trade shows. It's probably a great way to get out there and to get in front of people. As you can imagine, the Corps of Engineers has pretty high standards when it comes to safety and also with quality control. So And that's usually a significant hurdle for a small business coming into work and trying to develop those programs from the get-go. It's where they could use quite a bit of help from a consultant services that you might provide. Jody, do you have any other viewpoints on that?
Well, I have to say I'm a little bit familiar with Taylor and what they're doing, and it might be, I've been thinking it might be good to make sure he's got a capability statement ready to go and send it your way to help clarify what they've done here in the local area with Hanford, pretty high level safety support. So it might help a little bit. I appreciate you mentioning AGC, Association for General Contractors, and I'll include that in my information and follow up to the attendees. But perhaps if we get a cap statement over to you so you can see the history and the kind of work they've done, it might help, in case you think of something that might be applicable to him, maybe you guys could reconnect on that.
Right. So as far as the lines that I can cross, that's kind of one of the areas that I'm restricted or from doing is actually referring, trying to match up subcontractors with other contractors and things like that. I think Jody has much more flexibility on that. But as far as, engaging with the government, in the case, like with our safety office, I've had this question come up before about how much we have as far as contracting out. Of course, we have a very, very full, mature safety program. So I don't see the opportunities coming up, at least for the district here, as far as doing the safety programs. So Jody, I would defer to you as far as making those matchmakings.
That makes perfect sense. I appreciate that, James. Taylor, I'll get you some information on AGC. It might be something good to follow up. I have a local contact here that might be good for you to chat with too.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Taylor. Devin Calloway, do you have any questions? Would you like to share who you are, the business you're with, and what you're hoping to learn here today?
Yeah, so with Pelican Fueling, we mainly deal with supplying the railroad with fuel and other products. But from what I've gained from the meeting, it sounds like we would be more of a supplier for contractors. I'm still learning the landscape, but that's what I gained from the meeting. Super informative. Really thankful for you guys.
You bet. That may be something that you and I can talk further too, with possible connections for people that might benefit from your services too.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. So Devin, good to put a face with a name there. So
thank you.
Thank you, Devin. James Patterson, did you have some additional info you'd like to share today with James, and any specific questions come up?
I actually do. So I work with RJ Lee Lab, and we do both geotechnical and geochemical and chemical analysis. And I manage the geotechnical side of it. My supervisor is also on the line here, and he can talk about the chemical side of the lab. But for geotechnical, what are your thoughts, James, on how much of that work do you think is done by Army Corps directly, or sold out by Army Corps directly, and how much would be through subcontractors?
yeah, so it's a combination of things. And when the tool, the instrument we use is a single award task order contract that's in place. I'm trying to remember how long it's been out there. I think maybe close to 2 years, I think, as that contract has been out there. So it's a geotech contract. So of course we have our own in-house folks, engineering crews and technical combinations. So the workload is, if they have the bandwidth, they'll perform it in-house. Or, and then we have these contracts out there for when, it's best decision to go ahead and contract out. So the opportunities with that, I don't know I can't remember off the top of my head who that contractor is. If you want to send me an email and ask me the question, just say, hey, this is a follow-up for this, I can steer you in the right direction. But I'd also ask you, or suggest that you also take a look at the Portland district as well as the Seattle district. So Portland stretches into the Vancouver area, so just north across the river. And of course, Seattle has their area, not to mention all the larger projects too. So.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, James. Jamie, would you like to introduce yourself and your company and ask any specific questions of James today? Jamie Contreras, I think. No, maybe not. Let's move on. Tim Proctor, glad to see you here today. Do you have any questions? And would you like to introduce yourself and your business to James? The feeling some people went for a coffee refill. How about Dave? Would you like to
So Jody,
introduce yourself? Yeah, I'm sorry, James.
One of the exercises we went through is just give us your elevator speech. Give us your, your 60-second pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is
There's Dave.
This is Dave from ATI. Thanks for putting this together. This has been very informative. ATI provides environmental, industrial hygiene, facility support, largely under government contracts as well as commercial. We also have a design build component, although we're mostly focused on vertical construction, schools, municipal buildings, libraries, labs. So probably not something like a dam. But following up on my question before, we do environmental cleanup, restoration, asbestos removal, industrial hygiene, and the SATOC you brought up, James, is that already awarded? Do you know when that would be coming up for a rebid? And is that under the Seattle district or is that Walla Walla?
That's a good question. It's not like you might have already intel, or we may have already discussed this in the past. There was some dialogue going on as far as our hazmat contract that we have out there, and I'm thinking that the life of that is either expired or it's close to expiring. And so there's discussion between our requirements owners within the district about which tool they're going to use, if they're going to go ahead and solicit a new tool for that, or maybe go ahead and just use another contract that's already within the Pacific Northwest region. I think it was the latter. So I think that they were looking towards utilizing capacity under the Seattle contract for that. That's the latest information I have on that one.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Hey, Paul, would you like to unmute, give us your 30 seconds elevator speech and introduce yourself and ask James anything specific you have today?
Sure. My name is Paul Ioannidis. I am the Vice President for Analytical Services at the RJ Lee Group, and I work hand in hand with James Patterson, our Geotechnical Services Manager. Our laboratory supports a lot of chemical, geotechnical, air, industrial hygiene, and process development testing services. So we have quite a lot of capabilities. And the geotechnical services, since we work with James hand in hand, we have been expanding a lot of these capabilities. So we support the Hanford site quite a lot, both in the chemical as well as the geotechnical testing services. And we work with a lot of the major contractors in the area.
Very good. Do you do any work at all directly with the Corps of Engineers, whether it's our district or another one?
No, not really. However, very recently, a few months ago, we have been able to achieve Army Corps of Engineers certification in our geotechnical area. And this is why having that certification, we're attending these types of meetings, and we are initiating a process to work much more closely with the Army Corps of Engineers. I personally have worked with the Army Corps of Engineers a lot, both domestically and internationally, primarily with the Baltimore district, the previous life. And we've done a lot of work, mostly in West Africa. I would love to do some more work locally.
Right. So hopefully in West Africa, the time frame was more stable. I know that there's been some tumultuous times there. So
Yes.
I'll tell you that our district commander, speaking of work going overseas, our district commander's next assignment is over in Kuwait. So he'll be headed over there later this summer. Just
I've
kind of
spent a
an
lot of time in the
FYI,
Middle
so.
East. Yeah. I've worked in Kuwait
Yeah.
and based in Dubai for a while. So yeah, we've done a lot of work out there.
Right. Yeah, Dubai's
It
a
always
fun town.
amazes me when we do these events and I find out people are working in other countries and it's just common practice. And it just astounds me sometimes that the folks here locally do those things. I'm so impressed with that. Thank you, Paul.
Problem.
Still got a little bit of time. Who'd like to unmute and introduce and ask any questions of James today? Haven't heard from Tim or Del Clark, Carissa Thompson. Hi, Del.
Hello, how's it going?
Going great. How are you today?
Good. I'm Del Clark. I work for Christensen Fuels. We already do some work with the dams in the Army Corps of Engineers down through our Portland division with turbine oils and lubricants. We're national Shell distributor for those lubricants and oils. Pretty much we do propane, bulk, fleet card, and oils. So kind of all fuel correspondent. So just wanted to be on the call to find out what opportunities might be coming this way. We've acquired a business up in Idaho, so our stretch goes a little farther now. So just looking at where the Walla district goes to, just kind of interested in seeing, you know, what was out there. And thanks for your time, James.
So hey, the petroleum sales that you have with our district, are those done through purchase orders or through credit card, or how's that done?
I believe through purchase orders, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, all right. Well, feel free to reach out or send me your product information.
I will.
Just for an update and things like that. So yeah, oftentimes the relationship is out at the individual sites. So with our operational folks out there, you know, each site is a little bit different. Of course, you know, the proximity or the, you know, the distance that you would have to travel to deliver the products and so forth. So
yeah, our Portland office does a lot with Bonneville Down. So we got in there about 3 years ago on some turbine testing. So we just, you know, qualified our lubricants and whatnot for those turbine matrix. And they've been able to supply basically Bonneville Down. And so we're just trying to look at how to bounce off of that to then go Bonneville up this direction.
very good. Very good. Feel free to reach out.
I will. Thanks so much.
Yeah, if you want me to double check your cap statement before you ship it over Dell, I'm happy to help with that.
Yes, I'd love that. I've kind of been away from the PTAC a little bit in my other division, now moving back over here. I know Denver, you worked a lot with Denver before he went to Portland. And so now that I'm kind of back in this role here, I thought I would definitely reach out, especially to get some of this stuff going. Thanks, Jody.
Perfect. Perfect. Happy to help. Thank you.
So Jody,
Carissa,
let
would you like to chat
me
with us
put a
today?
plug in here for capabilities.
I'm sorry, James, go ahead.
I was going to put a plug in here for capabilities presentations. So the Walla Walla District Corps of Engineers, we're open for business, open now to facilitate host face-to-face capabilities. Throughout the pandemic, I was doing face-to-face basically outside the facilities at a cafe or hotel lobby and things like that. But we're back and open now. It's just a matter of need a little bit of advance warning, if you will, to make sure I get your scheduled up and get you teamed up with some of our technical people. But there's also something that we do once a month with we do a joint capabilities presentation between my compadres over at the Portland district as well as Seattle district. And so we'll have 3 or 4 firms that we're basically going through about a 45 to 50 minute segments where it provides a small business an opportunity to basically present to the 3 of us, Portland, Seattle, and Walla Walla. And the way we have it structured is your first presentation is presenting to the small business folks, us, small business advocates. So it's an opportunity if you're not real comfortable in presentations or you want to take a test ride, be prepared for some feedback as your presentation is going on. It's a very interactive type of a process. And remember that the whole intent is for us to get better to know you, but also to help you tune up your presentation and capabilities documents that you have out there. So if that's something that you might be interested in, reach out to myself or Carol McIntyre at the Portland District. We'll be happy to schedule that in for you as well. That's we do that once a month, and that's of course that's in a virtual format. So Jody, back to you.
Yeah, James, with that, I've made a note of that. Is that something that is advertised on your site monthly? Someone could go and click a link and register at a point they're ready, or do they have to make an appointment to be part of that?
Yeah, you need to engage with one of us, one of the districts, up front and say, because sometimes those first contacts is we're just kind of getting to know you, knowing what you do, what you offer, see if you're a good fit or not, and then if you are a fit. Then we'll ask you, we'll say, hey, are you interested in making a presentation to all 3 districts?
Gotcha.
And so it comes off of that kind of initial screening, if you will. So if you
it's kind
come
of
in here,
invite
you
only
tell
when
me
you
you're
think they're
doing,
about ready. Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
right?
Great. Thank you, James. Carissa, what do you have to share with us today?
I'm Carissa Thompson. I am the owner of Basic Niche. I do custom metal fabrication. I've also gotten into fiber lasers, so I do custom engraving on metal, and I can do super deep engraving as well. I came to the presentation today because I'm just trying to learn how to get in with the contracts, and it sounds like the subcontracting is the direction for me because I am still so small, but the information has been very helpful. It looks like there's lots of links on James's website that will be very informative for me.
So let's talk about manufacturing. What are you talking about? Moderate scale, small scale, large scale, and where are you located?
I'm located in the Tri-Cities. I'm located in Kennewick. I run a CNC plasma table that's a 5x10 table. I'm pretty small scale right now. I
think that one froze on us, Carissa.
just
There we go.
custom
You're
mounts.
back.
I'm not sure how much of that you caught.
No, you might want to start over because it kind of froze up for a minute. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm a smaller scale. I have a CNC plasma table and I do all kinds of metal fabrication and stuff. I would obviously like to grow, but right now, not a very large scale operation.
So you're looking at maybe a components or something like that. I mentioned that we have, equipment out there that's, 50, 60 years old, and are those firms still in business? I was out there on a site walk a couple months ago at Ice Harbor, and I was looking at these devices for the spill gates, and it looked like something out of a Perry Mason movie. And and I turned to one of our technical guys and I said, hey, is this firm still in business? I goes, no, I haven't ever heard of them except for, what's engraved into their piece of equipment. So potentially there's an opportunity to recreate those things based upon a model that's already in place, of course, subject to other titles and rights that, the original manufacturer may have. That's my little disclaimer there. Did you like that?
Yeah. And do you think that would mostly be done by subcontracting through the bigger contractors who will have projects to work on those things?
That could be a combination of both. If a prime's
Okay.
out there and they're going through and doing a rehab on something, they might reach out and say, hey, I got this component I need to do. Or it could be our operations folks out there at the site saying, hey, we got this one that's failed or has corrosion, and they want to rebuild it, and the manufacturer's no longer the picture, do we have title to the design? All those things play into it. So the operation site, could generate the requirement by themselves and say, hey, we've got this, use it as prototype to rebuild it. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Hi, Tim. Did you want to chat with us today? Mr. Proctor? It's quite possible he took another call. He's kind of a busy guy here too. Okay, who did I miss? I asked everybody, I think. Jamie, did you want to come on and ask anything in particular today? If you unmute. Well, you're unmuted, Jamie. Would you like to ask anything or share with James who you are and what you do? Or you can type something in the box if you need to, Jamie. And while I wait for that, I will just kind of do a quick overview. I will share with everyone that attended today the PDF of the slide deck, all of the links and contact information. And James, I will add in your contact information if we're not seeing it on one of the final slides. I'll take care of that, add that in. As well as information, just a quick update info will be sent to each of you on the subnet program and any specifics that that James talked about today that you want some more information. If you'd like to contact him directly, we can arrange an opportunity to do that. Again, I always recommend that my clients make sure they've got a capability statement that is ready to go. Because I know James and his colleagues, they ask that on a regular basis. So I'm happy to help you get that put together and presentable so that you are meeting their expectations on their side too. James, any last minute thoughts for business partners that were joining us today and what you recommend they do or don't do in reaching out to you?
well, you just mentioned that business partners. Jody is a strong business partner of mine throughout the network. We mentioned a couple different organizations. We talked about the Corps of Engineers, my counterparts, the Office of Small Business Programs. We talked about the Small Business Administration. We talked about PTACs. This is a network that's out there that is focused on developing and the success of small businesses, whether they're within the state or doing work, like with other state organizations or municipalities, or in particular in my set, we're looking for a federal side. So if there's some questions out there, I'm not just I primarily represent the Corps of Engineers. I'm also available to help, maybe steer you in the direction or answer some questions about federal contracting as a whole. So we're all resources for you, for advocates for you, and we want you to succeed. One of the challenges we have here on the east side of the Cascades is the depth of our industrial base, and that's something that I've been very focused on, is expanding that and or developing the industrial base with resources that we can go to on this side of the Cascades. It's a very different environment along what I call the I-5 corridor, about firms that are out there. So anything we can do to further develop that industrial base, the better. So Jody, I guess we're about 20 minutes out from landing. I'll hand it back over to you so you can do your pre-landing briefing there for the rest of us. So.
Thank you, sir. It's always just such a pleasure to work with you, James. And you're just so wonderful about getting us the newest information and what's coming up around the corner, because we have so many questions that come in. I know there's nothing better than going straight to the source. And James, you are my source at the Corps. I really, really appreciate that. So for everyone that joined us today, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you found something that's beneficial. It'll help you in your search for opportunities with the government and the Corps in particular. And I have to say, there's a lot of information that helped clarify that you probably want to take a look at some subcontracting opportunities and taking a look at SAM to see who's out there that has a contract. You might be interested in, sharing that opportunity by joining with them. So a lot of different things to think about. You can contact me or any of my colleagues to follow up with you, and I will make sure you have all the information we presented today sent out to your email by the end of today, and the recording should be up on our Washington PTAC YouTube site by next week. So again, thank you, James. It's just always an honor to work with you, And I hope that that you get some information from some of my partners here that would benefit both. That's what we'd like to see. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
good.
Have a
Thank you all.
wonderful day. And yeah, James, any final notes? And we're ready to rock. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Mm.